Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some Fiendsmith Azamina White Forest. Had to jump back into this deck after playing a lot of DRACOTAIL. Honestly, it was initially to complete a Synchro Summon quest, but it was also kind of nice just to have a bit of a break from playing so much DRACOTAIL all the time. Alright, so going first in this Duelist Cup game, I'm going to actually begin with the Diabellstar setting up Deception here, because I'm doing basically two things at the same time. I'm A, baiting out hand traps like this Ash Blossom, and B, if my opponent is not going to use any hand traps rather into this line, then I can simply go into my Azamina Ilia Sylvia and have an Omni Negate up as I go into my Witch of the White Forest combo line. So we're going to use Witch here in order to add the Sylvie. Sylvie add the Tails. I'm going to use Tails for LZ. Now I can go LZ effect, send away Deception in order to add LZ Azamina, which can then be special summoned, and then I can Synchro Summon for the Rasila. Rasila will still be able to activate here because I can still send away my face-up field spell card. Alright, here's LZ Azamina effect, going to add a Sinful Spoils card. So I can add Wanted, but of course I started by summoning Diabellstar, so we're not going to be able to go into, the Diabellstar again. We can go into Diabell Queen of the White Forest. She's going to activate here in order to return the Tails to hand, because then I can send the Tails away with the Diabells, and I haven't used the second effective Tails yet, so it'll simply reset itself. Now, if you're wondering why Diabells didn't send anything on summon, that is a misplay on my part that I made in the deck building stage. That's my fancy way of saying I forgot to put in the Diabell spell and trap cards. And the first few games, I think, in this video, or the first couple anyway, are gonna have me not using those for that reason. So, whoops, my bad. There's so many archetypes to search, I searched White Forest, I searched Sinful Spoils, I searched, Azamina, and I'm gonna think I have my bases covered, but yeah, lo and behold, I forgot the Diabell cards. Oops. So, I'm just gonna go into my Fiendsmith engine from here, using my Diabells and Sylvie from the graveyard to make Moon, and then I'm basically just gonna add the Caesar to my end board here. Of course, we're gonna use Sequence to go Requiem plus Lacrima into the Fiendsmith Lacrima. I do still have the Rex Tremend set up in my extra deck to be able to go Fiendsmith into White Forest line. I know not everybody's on it. I know a lot of people aren't on it, even if they are playing Fiendsmith stuff. At the end of the day, it's highly optional, and I don't think it's even necessarily optimal. But I've got the Royal Rex Tremend, and by golly, I'm going to use it. Alright, so my Orcust opponent here is going to go Foolish Burial, send Harpor, normal summon Fiendsmith Lacrima. I'm going to chain Maxi to that, mostly because I know they can just link off the Lacrima into Fiendsmith's Requiem. They're going to go triple attack here and steal my Caesar. So they're going to go Lacrima, link off into the Requiem as mentioned. Now, I do get the Maxi draw, but of course if I try to summon off the Diabell, Caesar will just get to use its materials. So they're going to use the Requiem to summon Engraver. They're going to go Graveyard effect of Engraver, putting back the Requiem, which I was very glad to see. That means they can't just equip and get rid of my Diabell that way. So I'm going to call by the Engraver from the graveyard. Now, if they want to keep making plays, they're going to have to either commit to Harpor or link off the Caesar, which they actually chose to concede. I was really surprised by that, but I guess they didn't want to play into Maxi anymore. I feel like that was an early concede from my opponent. I feel like there were still a lot of scenarios where they had the upper edge. Because to be fair, if they had gone into Harpor, they would have been able to finish going into Fiendsmith plays, but like, they've already got they've already got my Caesar on their field, right? They're already nib-proof. I really think they should have just activated Harpor and kept, comboing from there, but I'll definitely take the dub. So anyway, let's go into the next duel. Alright, so these next games are going to all be going second games for the rest of the video. My next Duelist Cup opponent here, their username is Kid Amnesiac, which is a pretty relatively deep-cut Radiohead reference. So, mad respect to my opponent. I love Radiohead. They're probably just my favorite band. So, unfortunately for Kid Amnesiac, they're just going to have to set one card and then pass here. Now, my hand looks really bricky, but actually I do have plays here. It doesn't even involve using LZ to send away the tracks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use track to set up my Fiendsmith stuff, try to get a Requiem equipped, and then send the equipped Requiem for the LZ. But even if that gets stopped, like with, you know, the Summonous Impulse or something else, I still have a backup play I can make. They're going to go Impulse on the Luri. I'm going to go Engraver effect, put back the Luri in order to summon. Now I'm going to link off Engraver for Requiem. And then we're going to activate the Requiem and attempt to summon Lacrima. My opponent's going to use Song of the Dominator, meaning they can negate the Requiem effect, and they're going to add another copy of Impulse. So because they're on Song of the Dominators plus Impulse, there's a couple of things they could be on. It could be Odion, is actually my first guess. It could also be Labyrinth. I think those are the two decks most likely to be playing Song of the Dominators. But notably, I know they're not going to be able to use any hand traps until the end of their next turn. So I'm pretty much free to combo, I think, however I want here. And if they want to use Impulse from hand, well, one, they're not able to because they already activated Impulse this turn, as we saw here. And Impulse is a once per turn. But also, yeah, I should just have plays anyway. Special summon LZ Azamina. Even if I don't have a Sylvie to synchro with it, I can still use the on-field effect, the during your main phase fusion summon, fuse with an LZ in my hand, and that will let me go into Murashilago. Murashilago will, of course, let me add a Sinful card, and from there I still have the second LZ in my hand to make plays with, as well as the Sinful Spoils cards I'm adding. So, yeah, that's going to be a pretty clear line to victory there. Let's take a look at our next duel. Okay, so this game is going to be a much more back and forth going second game. This is a 6-turn duel. And I'm trying to remember what this opponent was on. I should remember, considering how much of a back and forth game it was. I mean, it'll come to me pretty soon, I'm sure. Here's my opponent's taking the first turn. Yes, it was Artmage. This is the first time I've run into Artmage myself on ladder. Yeah, those first couple of days there was really just me seeing a lot of DRACOTAIL and nothing else. Well, a few days, really. But thankfully, I did take a peek at Artmage in Duel Lives, as we saw in one of the previous videos, so I have an idea of how they function. I'm going to draw a Mockbird them after they add off the field spell. That will stop them from being able to draw off the Finmel, and they're just going to, or Finmel, and then they're going to set one card and then pass. So here we're going to go for the normal summon Lacrima, activate. They're going to flip up Imperm. Now that's going to stop me from being able to like completely combo out here, but I do still have plays I can make to answer my opponent's board. I'm going to link off the Lacrima and summon Fiendsmith's Requiem. Now we can go Requiem effect, summon out the Engraver. I'm going to activate Requiem to equip, but before I use my Engraver effect, I'm actually going to battle over Medius the Pure, then use Engraver's effect on the Fiendmel. Because, of course, if I did it first, I would have crashed into the Medius and would have lost my Engraver. Also, the Fiendmel will stop me from targeting Medius the Pure with Requiem. Not that that would have been the right play anyway, but... Now, they do get to use the Medius effect to summon the Artmage Power Patron from deck this time, summoning the Artmage Diactorus. But I know that this needs to have 3 different monster types on the field for the Omni Negate to be alive, so I'm really not concerned at this point. Plus, I keep getting these Droll Mockbirds, which are absolutely affecting my Artmage opponent. They're going to set one card. Before they end the main phase, I'm going to do a little bit of cycling / deck thinning. We're going to go Requiem, summon the Lacrima I just put back, and then dump Tract from my graveyard. I actually dumped Tract for a couple of reasons. One, I already have an Engraver in here, so dumping a second one doesn't do a ton. 2, I have the Diabell Starred Vengeance in my hand, and now I have a spell and trap card in my graveyard to banish if I need to. But we did also get the LZ Azamina here, so I can just equip the Requiem, send that away for the LZ Azamina, and now I'm free to go into my White Forest plays. We're going to go for the Rasila here. Activate, pitch the Tails, add Witch of the White Forest, Tails F to set, flip up Tails. Now we're going to add LZ Azamina, or we will, but they're going to Super Poly first. Using my Sylvie, or not Sylvie, Rasila with the Lacrima to summon out the Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Alright, so they're going to go Mud Dragon effect, call Light. Thankfully, they still don't have the Diactorus Omni Negate here because they only have 2 types of monsters in the field. But I go to make my Baron here. I actually don't think this was necessarily, well, I don't know. It's not a bad play, but I think I could have used those materials maybe a little bit better. One thing I definitely screwed up on here was forgetting the Diabell Star Vengeance needed the Diabells to be on the field to be able to summon from the extra deck. That was definitely a misplay on my part. I intended to summon the Silvera and do some double piercing damage, but I just simply should have activated the Diabells first. This was another game where I also forgot to have the Diabell cards in my deck, so whoops. Deck building misplay and gameplay misplay there, but I'm still definitely got the advantage here, or I've still got the advantage rather. They're going to go into the Typhone, but that's not going to help them against Baron because I can just go Diabell Star Vengeance, pop, summon the Poplar. They're locked out of summons for the rest of the turn. Even if they want to go Fuelos, I can simply chain Poplar effect and then give them 0 draws off Fuelos. Not that, again, they would be able to summon anyway, but why let them have, you know, a hand trap or something potentially? Alright, here's Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon. Putting those in the Ice Spell Trap Zone. In a different game state where it was more grindy, this would be really helpful to be able to summon... Actually, I don't think I'm playing Snake Eyes Doom Dragon anymore, am I? Nope, I'm not. I don't have room for it because of the Fiendsmith stuff, but... that is the kind of scenario where Snake Eyes Doom Dragon could have come up if I didn't already have Lethal on board. Alright, got one last game for you. Let's end off with that one. Alright, our final going second duel. This one is against Odion, I'm pretty sure? Let's see what we've got here. I definitely remember this hand, and also remember to play my Diabell cards. No, it's Lunalight, that's right. Odion, that was a different... yeah, that's a different video I'm thinking of. So, Lunalight, they're going to go Masquerade. I'm going to chain Ash Blossom here. Now they're going to use a Polymerization to fuse Yellow Marten and Black Sheep from hand. So, that's a pretty good sign for me. I know that if I imperm the Perfume Dancer, I can stop them from advancing their board state significantly. Like, yeah, they're going to get like 4 effects here, and that looks really scary, but it's really just about knowing which is the most important. I mean, to be fair, I have 2 imperms. You would always imperm here, even if Perfume Dancer like wasn't the most important effect, but basically Yellow Marten can only add, yeah, either another Masquerade or the Lunalight Fusion, neither of which really do anything here. Black Sheep simply adds Yellow Marten back to hand, and the Masquerade will be able to add back the Polymerization, but they don't have a Kaleido Chick to be able to make Liger Dancer. So I know that Perfume Dancer, the Lunalight Perfume graveyard effect is how they would get into more plays, and I need to cut them off from that. Unfortunately, was not able to top deck another play here, which I do find to be one of White Forest's biggest drawbacks. It does feel a little bit brickier than a lot of other meta decks. Like, it's got a very powerful end board, and if you've got plays, there's quite a few things you can do in various game states, but you're also playing a lot of, like, one-off non-engine, and that can come up a lot. Alright, now, in a bit of a bind here, because I did get to draw on Lockbird, but I still don't really have plays here. So, I don't know. I kind of feel the need to keep drawing. Plus, even if I drolled, they can still activate Masquerade, dump Silverhound, and then summon Kaleido Chick from deck. So, I'm like, does Droll and Lockbird really even stop my opponent from doing anything here? Now, they're going to do pretty much that, but they're going to go for Gold Leo. But again, if I had activated Droll and Lockbird, they would have just gone for Kaleido Chick straight up. It would have left them on one less fusion material. And also one thing that I think I'd actually forgotten this during the duel itself, but they did not activate the discard effect of Masquerade when they added back Polymerization. So they needed 4 materials to be able to make Liger Dancer on board. So I think it actually was right. I don't know. I think it was potentially right to activate Droll and Lockbird there. Even if it stops my own Fuelos, I think I did make a misplay by not doing that. But yeah, even though I'm not playing Azamina in my extra deck to out Liger Dancer, as you can see, it really doesn't matter, like, often enough. It's one of the reasons, this is actually kind of a prime example of, like, you know, I'll see people say, oh, you gotta have Azamina, you know, just the fusion monster just named Azamina, you gotta have them in the extra deck for Lunalight. But in my experience, if they make Liger Dancer, it's often 2, and a lot of times they're just killing you when they do that. So I don't really... I guess Azamina does battle over the second one. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I talked myself into it. But I guess I will still make the point that, like, a lot of times when they're making the Liger Dancers, they are just going to OTK you, and a smart opponent will definitely use the board wipes in a sense where you won't be able to use Azamina, but that's all speculative. In any case, let me go ahead and show you the list before we end off the video here. Okay, so this is my list for Fiendsmith, Azamina, White Forest. As mentioned, I am on the Rex Tremendous Friend package still, which allows your Fiendsmith cards to go into White Forest combo, which I do think has some merit. That said, I don't think it's necessary by any stretch of the imagination. So I definitely don't feel like you need to have these URs in order to play this variant of White Forest. I just really like, as my last video on this deck demonstrated, that you can normal summon Fabled Lurie, and that ends on a full White Forest board. So the Fiendsmith engine adds more starters, and none of them are bricks, which is one reason why I do like playing the Rex Tremendous engine. But again, very optional. Also, mine's Royal, very biased. Also, I like Sprite, very biased. So anyway. But yeah, we're at 42 cards because we do have quite a few off engine that we're not trying to draw, as mentioned. Our One of Stellar wants to stay in the deck to be dumped off Rex Tremend. You know, of course, our Diabell cards definitely want to stay in the deck to be dumped by Diabells. And stuff like Tails, Palette Azamina, Deception, Wanted. It's not that you always hate seeing these cards in your opening hand, but you don't need to see them in your opening hand. They are all searchable within the combo line. Of course, our 3-ofs are going to be the stuff we actually want to open. Our Elzets, our Sylvies, our Witch of the White Forest, and then we have our Fiendsmith package. So the 5 Fiendsmith cards plus the 9 White Forest starters make for 14 starters, and this build has 14 hand traps. So again, the additional starters are why I really like playing the Fiendsmith variant. You do have to compromise to bring the extra deck, and again, I especially did for the stuff I chose to play, but I do think it is worth it. The Fiendsmith engine, again, these 2 cards are very optional. But yeah, I still think that Azamina White Forest is a very strong deck in this meta. DRACOTAIL is stronger, I'm not going to deny that, but I still think this is a very solid tier 2 deck. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. But that's going to go ahead and do it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Let us move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.